Hi, this is Derek Tsai from LearnByBlogging.com. Today I want to give you a quick review of this book called The Chemistry Between Us. This is the book, The Chemistry Between Us by Larry Young and Brian Alexander. Wow, I didn't know how much of our behaviors are really shaped by the chemistry in our brain, especially the ones between the sexes. Many kinds of our bodily chemicals are introduced here. There are oxytocins, the dopamines, the vasopressin, and many other kind of chemicals really fascinating chemicals being introduced here. I learned a lot about how the brain work, about the sexual behaviors of our animals, like anglerfish, a lot more than I really want to know, and bonobos, and etc. Very interesting book. In a way, it kind of ruined my perception of love, what love is, and that really explains a lot about our human behaviors, and especially between sexes. And most of the time, is really above our free will, unfortunately. And this is an excellent book if you are really interested in how the various chemicals affect our brain and our behaviors. A short chemistry here, a short summary here. Chapter 1 is about building a sexual brain. The story of Machihembra was the first I read about from this book. Interesting that the girls actually turned into a boy at 12 years old in a certain area of Dominican Republic. And so that goes to tell you that society does not make the sexual gender, rather that we are born with it. And the boys and girls are made differently, starting from the brain, and not just because of the sexual organ, and not really dictated by socialization nor the genitals that they are born with. So that is about chapter 1. Chapter 2 is the chemistry of desire. There are estrogens and the production of progesterone receptors during ovulation, or in estrus, or in heat. Really puts the animal, or a mouse in this case, or cats, and even women in heat and more receptive to mating. So testosterone drops when the men near their babies or losing a sports match. Interesting phenomenon. And also rises when encountering another female who are ovulating. And also more of a mate guardian behavior as a result of the testosterone. So that's about chapter 2, how the chemistry affect our desire. Chapter 3 is the power of appetite. Our appetite is based on MPOA, is a medial preoptic area, nucleus accumbens, and the amygdala, and the VTA is a lot of areas in the brain. The dopamine really hits the D1 receptors of the MPOA, and we become very attentive to sex-related cues. So it started all from that the appetite first, and MPOA really directs the parasympathetic nervous system to send blood to the genitals and creating the erection in males, and clitoral engorgement in females. The VTA transmits the dopamine into the prefrontal cortex, and inhibiting the sexual desire and giving us the tunnel vision for cues that lead to desire, satisfying that desire. So, all this precondition has to take place in order to build up that desire. But after orgasm, there's a chemical called indocannabinoids, the brain version of the marijuana, make use of a little sleepy, really make us a little bit sleepy and after the sex. That's why guys all fall asleep afterward. But after orgasm, the serotonin also gushes, inducing the feeling of calms and satisfactions and what have you. So endorphins then flows into the limbic systems and the hypothalamic area. So all these chemicals happen in the middle and right after the sexual intercourse. And the fetishes and the partner preferences can be developed in the early sexual behavior experiences due to satisfying this specific area, specific appetite via this dopamine release. So if you develop a habit in the early sexual experience, that becomes a fetish for that person or even animals. Chapter 4 is about the mommy circuit. The oxytocins causes a contraction and giving birth and induces a maternal behavior. And then the prolactin stimulates the breast to make milk and stimulates the MPOA, which signals the amygdala to suppress the fear and cause the mother to be calmer. So all this sequence of events, and then the dopamine rewards the mothers for caring for their children. So all this chemical happens in our body and make us a better, make the mother a better mother in the human race. On chapter 5, Be My Baby. This talk about how males mate is more like the extension of a female's baby. So in this case, the author brought up the prairie voles, which are a monogamy and mated for life, versus meadow voles, which are polygamy. Very similar species, but their sexual behavior is very different. So these are being used by scientists to study their behavior. And turns out the more oxytocins bondings makes all the more oxytocin receptors in the cumbens reward center in the brain are seen in the prairie voles. So the bonding really takes all the chemicals, the oxytocins, the dopamine, the opioids, and the great and also the good social memory, which allow the voles, the male voles, to recognize their mate, or vice versa, with the face or with the smell. Especially when the feel-good cocktails are released, and if it allow the social memory to flourish. So couples, when they did experiment with couples, when they nose spray with the oxytocins, they tend to have and this similar behavior, a similar chemical can be stimulated in the sheep through a vaginal cervical stimulation. So as part of the sexual intercourse, you actually form these oxytocins and makes the couples to exhibit more positive behavior or more better communication toward each other and create that bond. So the bonding process is almost make them a man more like a woman's baby. So similar chemical is being seen when a mother farts mothering a baby. Okay, so chapter 6, Be My Territory. This is the opposite side. The vasopressin in the male actually stimulate the territorial guarding behavior, and then switching on the certain gene, the Aprila gene, makes the male voles monogamous and good bonders due to the increase of these vasopressin receptors. So it goes into the argument that a woman is an extension of man's territory. So, or similar from a chemical standpoint. Chapter 7, Addicted to Love, and this particular chapter talk about drug addiction is very similar to love or falling in love. So drug addiction is parallel to falling in love. Vasopressin serves as a chemical trigger, like in the loaded rifle, in the CRF system, to fire off the HPA axis during separation from partner or drug in addict. So the CRF system is the pain system, the stress system in our human or in animals. So if you are the vasopressin actually serve to create the stress when you are separated from your mate. So for human, falling in love is like putting a gun to your head, and you feel very depressed because stress hormone are really run wild. And once you satisfy your love addiction, and that you get a relief from that. So interesting concept. There's an opposite coin of falling in love. And chapter 8, the infidelity paradox. So normally self-control, our prefrontal, your prefrontal cortex will talk with the amygdala, the VTA and accumbens, and all this. Your brain would kind of say, "Hey, cut it out! Don't," before the cheating would take place. But once you are married or bonded, male's testosterone and stress hormone drops, and hence having less sex, and that's very common behavior. And this is a phenomenon named after Calvin Coolidge, one of our presidents, and didn't know anything about the president except for this particular phenomenon. There's basically two phenomena that was named after Calvin Coolidge. Coolidge is the slow death of a passion experienced by many human couples. And then second phenomenon is the rejuvenation of a sexual appetite and performance by lure of novelty and infidelity. So all this kinky stuff or whatever, the curriculum can actually bring in the passion. And then there's a D4, they call it cheating gene, that associated with the human ability to resist impulsive desire and yield to temptation. So a person who has this particular cheating gene are more probable to cheat on their partner. Some people use that to screen their partner, Chapter 9, they're rewriting the story of love. Knowing all these various chemicals work in our brain, do we still have the grip of free will, or we are more the puppets of these drugs inside our brain? So is love induced by a drug or still a love? Real or true? So that's, the bottom line, the difficult question at the end of the chapter when the author questioned that. Very interesting chapter, very interesting book, and really enjoy reading the book and listening to the audiobook. And definitely I recommend it if you want to understand why you do things that really beyond your character. You might have another book you might have chemicals to blame, and to do that you got to read this book. Okay, thanks for watching. I appreciate your giving me a feedback, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as the learnbyblogging.com. And until next time, thank you for watching.